I'm excited to be here, chat a little bit about SEO because what I realized hanging out with you guys in the last days is that you start off with a product idea, right? You might be a developer, you might be a technical person, but once you start putting out your product, all of a sudden you have all these responsibilities in marketing and sales, and you're basically going through a second education, becoming a marketer, understanding funnels, understanding your website. So I have 12 minutes, so I thought I'd give you guys a blueprint on how you can structure a website that makes sense for SEO. And I want to give you some insights on how that strategy could look like, the types of content you could be writing, and how that overall layout could look like. SEO is great because it can do this. This is a client of mine, which is a software business that I started working with in January of 2019. The blue line is organic traffic this year versus the year before. And it just means you can get a lot of eyeballs on your website if you can get it right. And what you can also see, this is kind of like a consistent increase in traffic over time. So I quickly wanted to introduce this model to you, which is an inspiration from Rand Fishkin, who created a company called Moz, which is an SEO tool. And basically what he talks about is the difference of creating content for social media, for your email list, versus creating content for SEO. Which just means if you're writing content and you're putting out 5 blog posts a week, 5 Facebook posts, 5 LinkedIn posts every day, is that you're in the travel you hustle to get phase. So what happens is you see a spike of hope in your traffic once you put a post up, and that is because your followers, your fans, your mom, and your best friend, they come to the website when you publish a post. And then the next day it falls down to 0, the flat line of nope. What we're looking to do with SEO is to create evergreen content that can bring you sustainable new visitors to your website. Google is still the largest traffic referrer, so it brings in 10 times more traffic than Facebook does. Sometimes people say like, oh, all this Google traffic, that's going to be ads. I just published a post or a graphics on my blog, which actually shows that on desktop, 60% of all clicks still go to organic, and on mobile, 40%, so you probably don't want to be missing out on that. Yeah, I'm Viola Eva. I run an SEO agency, and we work for a lot of software companies, so this is why I'm here today. I'm going to be really quick on this. Page 1 is the most relevant answer to a search query, right? That's what we learned yesterday, and that's the main thing that I want you to keep in mind. And the other thing I want you to keep in mind that Google's algorithm is not a human. It doesn't process content and information the way we do. It's an algorithm, and hence it calculates relevance based on ranking factors. The more ranking factors you can get right, the better you're going to rank. Now, that means that most SEO processes look like this. You get started with keyword research and you figure out what are your customers, your target audience, what are they looking for, what are they typing into Google. I don't really want to go into this as much. The general gist of this is if you're starting out, your priority should be becoming a big fish in a small pond, which ultimately means like you don't need to pay for SEO tools month after month after month, but you probably should be paying for an SEO tool a month or two, and you want to choose low difficulty keywords, right? And then you start winning low difficulty keywords, you become a big fish in a small pond, and then over time you can pick a bigger pond. But don't start out as a small website, a small business, banging your head against a wall with a super competitive keyword, because you're really only going to see an increase in organic traffic once you hit the top position. There's no good in being stuck on page 2, 3, and 4 of Google, right? You want to make it to the top position, so keyword research is going to help you identify those opportunities. From there, you want to choose the technical infrastructure of your website, then start content writing. If you haven't written about it, Google can't rank you for it. Then build links to it, which is basically we're finding opportunities, we're creating a structure, we're building the foundation, and then we accelerate our rankings with links. And the thing is, Google is very loving of structure, and Google understands structure. There we go, Google understands structure. Which means that Google's moved from a keyword-specific understanding to an entity understanding, so it does understand that apple pie recipe, recipe for apple pie recipes. It does understand this is all the same thing, but you still have to make it very, very clear, this is my page about apple pie recipe, this is my page about banana bread recipe, this is what I want you to rank. And my hypothesis is that you guys, as technical people and developers, that you guys are good with structure, and that you understand structure, and that you understand hierarchy and relationships between objects. Right? So you understand, if you're using a programming language that has an object orientation, you understand that certain parent objects inherit characteristic to the underlying object. And that's how Google processes information as well. So the first rule of the Fight Club is optimize one page per keyword cluster, which means that you want to have one page and one page only about apple pie recipe, and you don't want to be pumping out 4 pages about this, which also gets you off the treadmill of content you hustle to win. And the second rule of the Fight Club is you want to respect ontology, which means the hierarchy of content and concepts between each other. So let's look at the blueprint. I actually hope that you guys can read this. I think most websites probably have 3 layers. And the first layer I call the website core. So this is where people come when they know your brand name, when they've heard about you at a conference, when you email them on LinkedIn and they come to your website. They come to your website, and what they will find is they will find your homepage. They will probably find an about page, a contact page, terms of service, the regular stuff. And then they will find your product pages or product feature pages. And this is what I call the website core. And the way I like to structure this for a software business is normally creating a header that looks something like that. So probably in the header navigation of my website is I'm going to have a list of all the products or features that I have, right? This is your brand name. And then probably you want to break down your solutions by need, by industry, by role, by task. Obviously, not every website is going to have all those categories. That's probably overdoing it. But you probably want to segment your users based on use case or based on the role they have and the task that they're trying to perform. And then probably you want a few case studies. So these are the pages that you have next to your about page, your homepage, right? This is generally what we see if we go to a software business website. That's the structure we see. Now, this is funny for SEO because now you're saying, like, fuck, now I need to write my product page 20 times. Is that not going to be content duplication? Plus, I don't want to write 20 sales pages. Like, this seems like a mess. And the way to think about this is that you can have this structure in the header to segment users for conversion. But in terms of SEO, you can probably lead them to the same sales page. So here, I said as an example, I don't know, I have a product feature of visual reporting, which satisfies the need of creating a monthly report, which I outlined in my case study 1. So all of this can be on the same page. And the interesting thing for SEO is that this column by need, that's probably where you're picking your keywords. So this is like visual reporting software. It's like email automation for e-commerce. It's like a page builder for WordPress. Whatever your keyword is, that's probably going to be in this column need. And that's what you're going to want to be optimizing for SEO for, even though people can find it through different paths on your website as well. Yeah, so this is just another example of the same thing. So, which means that you don't have to write 20 sales pages and, put on all that work if you can get that structure right. Then we have the second layer of the website, which we normally call SEO silos, which means that we're clustering content that is topically related together. And I just want to give you guys a few ideas of things that people normally look for. Number 1 is tutorials. So you don't want people to necessarily go to YouTube or to someone else's blog if they're having an issue with their software, right? If they're like, how to set up a abandoned cart email in Drip, I don't know if you can do that. But you want them to come to your website to find that. So in that tutorials, there's going to be queries and keywords that you want to be optimizing for common problems that people have. These are your knowledge base articles, like that kind of stuff. So that's the first type of like SEO cluster of things that you want to be doing. And then second, a bit small, is I call it resources and review and comparison. So these are interesting part of your website where you can talk how you compare to other players on the market. So this is like MailChimp alternative, e-commerce software for MailChimp. This is your Zapier integration from MailChimp to Google Sheets to Slack. If your tool is replacing that. These kind of like common things that people are looking for, or they are looking for cheaper than MailChimp or whatever they're looking for. These kind of like comparing your tool to other players in the field and to other things that people are typing in when they're trying to solve the issue, which is normally Zapier or other tools. You want to have them all clustered together in that part of the website. And all of this stuff is basically, it's either your customers looking for a tutorial, or it's people who are really ready to buy because they're solving a very specific problem and they're looking for tools, right? So if they're scouting for tools, you want to make sure that you appear. And the way you want to do this is you cluster those articles in the same part of your website. And then the third part is I call silo, and this is kind of like where your typical SEO content comes in. So this part on the right here is where your content marketing, your content writing, your normal blog content that you normally think about probably comes in. And even your normal blog content, you want to break down and structure as well as possible. And the reason why we're doing this is exactly that. Because people who come from organic search rarely come to your homepage, right? They only come to your homepage if they search for a brand, a term, or for the overarching theme that you're trying to be successful with. Most of the people are coming into those blog posts, to these tutorials, this knowledge base, or this review and comparison posts. So for all your blog content, I want you to keep this in mind, which is basically is cluster your content base into categories, right? So make sure that all your vegetable content lives with the other vegetables, or your fruit content lives with other fruit. And the way you do this is you can use URL structure like domain.com/fruit, but it's mainly about internal linking. You want to make sure that fruits link to fruits, right? And that vegetables link to vegetables. And what this allows you to do is basically you're beating the authority of big players by creating a tight structure and by creating relevance. And this is the blueprint and the SEO ideas. And if you can get together what you want to communicate, what people are searching for, and what Google would like to see, which means a tightly knit, relevant structure, then you're going to be successful. And this is the red timer. Thank you very much.